Welcome back to the latest edition of the Inside Line IndyCar podcast presented by Indy Star. I am sports editor Aaron Ferguson. He is insider Zion Brown. Zion, we have such a loaded show for listeners today that I didn't even include the GP on the rundown. That's how busy we have been during this quiet period between Long Beach and the Grand Prix. Just a ton of news, a ton of I guess fallout from that news or reaction to that news with how the series is going to be impacted moving forward. And so yeah, let's jump right into it. Rule changes. We had the push to pass quote unquote incident at Long Beach where it was activated and a dozen drivers I think used it.
Yeah.
And now
I've
we're
got
just
the
gonna
list
have
if you
push to
want it.
pass. Yeah, let's just do it,
So yeah, we failed to talk about it. It feels like so long ago after Long Beach, so 2 weeks ago. It's because it was a bit of a footnote because they didn't penalize anybody. But yeah, of course, that happened in Long Beach with Marcus Armstrong passing Santino Ferrucci. And they decided, since both of them used the push to pass, that there was no penalty. And then, yeah, IndyCar officiating, I should say, because they are technically different things now. Decided to tell us that 12 drivers used it, but only mentioned the two. And I know both of those two are like, why were we the ones who got called out for this if there's no penalty? So the other day we did get the full list. It was Scott McLaughlin, Nolan Siegel, Kiffin Simpson, Alex Palou, David Malukas, Graham Rahal, who used it for approximately 0.0 seconds, whatever that means. Roman Grosjean, Louis Foster, Felix Rosenquist, and Rinus VK. That was the full list, along with, of course, Armstrong and Ferrucci. But I'm glad we got this list. Not that it changed anything, but I just thought it was odd to tell everybody that 12 drivers used it, but then not name the 12 drivers.
Alex Palou, what the heck, man?
Hey. I put in my article, like, him and Felix were the two who used it the most, and Felix was the most, Palou was second. It's so, like, it's just funny, I guess. Like, I made the joke, or not even the joke. We did talk about this. Like, what if Kyle Kirkwood used it? We did talk about it briefly. And like, what if he used it and got into first? Well, actually, it turns out the two guys who were first and second did use it, and then Kirkwood, who ended up fourth, and Scott Dixon, who was third, they're not on this list. So it's just strange. Like, I don't know what to make of it. When we got to talk to Santino Ferrucci last week, he suggested that IndyCar make the change that they eventually did make, which I know you were leading into there, but I don't know. It feels very much like we don't know what we want from this system and how it needs to be used, and now it's a situation where I know that the Penske fans and the Joseph Newgarden fans out there are like screaming for justice right now, right? Considering that you said it, Palou used it and still won the race, but that's not the way IndyCar decided to go with things, and instead they're just kind of leaning into the fact that drivers tend to push this button even when they are or were not supposed to.
One less thing to worry about during a race for the IOB. So,
Yeah, I guess that's the goal, right? And then that was in the statement of the change. It said that they wanted to put they said they wanted to put the burden. They used the word burden on the competitors, when win or when not to use that button. It's kind of like IndyCar trying to wipe its hands clean and say, if you use it at the wrong time, it's on you now. Versus what happened in Long Beach when those 12 drivers all used it when they were technically not supposed to. Heard some comments from Connor Daly who talked about it, and he said, yeah, that happens on like every restart. Like, if the button is activated and it shouldn't be, drivers press it. Like that, according to him, that is something that has happened frequently. But I guess because of the new officiating board, it's finally gotten called out for the first time ever, because outside of the Newgarden and Scott McLaughlin situation at St. Pete in 2024, we haven't had something like this until now.
Yeah, I think that was maybe secondary news to the big news that came down, and that is the charters are going to be 25 next season in 2027, and then the 27 Honda and Chevy each getting one that they can use for 2028. And really, I think there's a consensus thought that this is going to increase the value of the charters, and teams are going to have to buy their ways into the series. It should make things, I think, a little bit more professional in a way. Like you wrote a great story that I think hit every angle. It really left no doubt, I think, where it just kind of broke down like every angle of what this means for IndyCar. And I liked, Zach Brown talked to Nathan Brown last year and said that we need to go on the offensive as a series, and this kind of feels like that kind of move. I know Doug Bowles talked to you about, they needed some sort of, uh, they just want to firm things up. Like to me, it was just like, hey, we need to know what we have going forward so we can market it to, with the new car moving forward, to the engine manufacturers, to everything throughout the series. It seemed like really, and it went to a vote that everyone just kind of wanted a little more certainty. As much as we've talked about Prema and not knowing what their future is, they kind of took matters, they being the series and the owners, kind of took matters into their own hands and were like, okay, you want to be in, it's just got a lot tougher for you. And now you have to really fight for it and find the funding for it.
Yeah. At this point, no one's going to buy Prima unless they are simultaneously purchasing a charter from one of those other teams, right? Like, I guess I should rephrase that to say no one's going to buy Prima with the purpose of racing an IndyCar unless that's a simultaneous move. Anybody could, I guess, buy the assets that Prima has because, as I've mentioned on the podcast and in my writing, Prima does still have their assets. They still have cars. They still have, all the tools and everything that they would theoretically need, everything but engines basically right now that they would theoretically need to get back onto a track or to help another team, I guess, with just gaining those assets. But as things stand, right, without the promise or even the chance of racing next year, there's no reason to buy that team, right? Like they were at a place where they were trying to, whether it was the 500 or not, that's the team that was trying to get back on track this year. But this process, which has already taken months and months and months, is being delayed even further now because I believe that some of the potential investors that would have been interested have kind of been like, well, what are we doing at this point, right? And I know Mike Shank mentioned to me that he had planned that to maybe enter for a handful of races next year, a third car. That won't happen now because they've got their 2 charters already. So yeah, that's kind of where it's at when it comes to Prima. And then for all these other teams, Dryan Reinbold, Abel, HMD, whoever else you may want to name, they can't enter a race this year or next. And I've talked to people in IndyCar, and no one has, and I actually misspoke there. They can't enter a race this year if they want to, but no one has expressed interest from what I've heard in doing so. But I do think some of those teams would have had interest next year, just considering it's the last year of that engine, and of that chassis, and they have all those chassis already. So if you had, an extra car you wanted to enter for 5 races, let's say, I think some of those teams would have had interest in that, but now that's not available to them. And it's just a very peculiar situation. Like you said, there's so many sides to it. There's the Prima side. There's the side of those other teams that are operating but aren't in IndyCar that I just mentioned. Those next teams in Dryer and Reinbold, not a next team, but just them as well. And then there's the side of the owners, the current owners, and someone like Mike Shank, someone like the folks at Juncos Hollinger, like who have kind of come up in this system where they got to do it one at a time or slowly but surely build it up and then get into the IndyCar series. For even a team like Team Penske that has done this several times in the past, including with Will Power, right, who became, an all-time great, where they in the past have, put him in a handful of races one year, and the next year or a year or two later, he was in every race. That can't happen anymore. And to be fair, it hadn't happened in 4 years with a team that wasn't already on track, right? It's happened with a couple of teams that were already having 1 or 2 full-time entries, but it's been 4 years since Peretta Autosport did it with Simona Di Silvestro. So that wasn't something that was happening a lot, but it was still, an option. And now that option is gone and for the foreseeable future. And I think the main point that I want to make here is that you mentioned it is supposed to add value to charters. I think it will, but I'm not sure it will. The charter system has been in place for almost 2 years. None of them have been sold yet. And you talk to folks at IndyCar, they claim that, certain teams have had conversations about selling their charters. but it hasn't happened yet. And until we see it happen and get an idea of really what the value of that is, we're kind of just all sitting around waiting to really see if this will make a real effect on the value of the teams or not. So I'm curious to see if and when that does happen, what it looks like.
Yeah, I think like for me, I'm buying the fact that it'll add value to the Chargers because there's exclusivity now. Like, that's the only way to get them now is to buy them, right? So, well, unless you get Chevy or Honda to give you one for
Right.
2028, but
Well, and
um,
Honda's already decided, of course, on
mhm.
MSR, so it's really just it's just about begging Chevy. It was funny when I talked to Doug Bowles. He was like, "Have you heard anything about what Chevy?" Like he doesn't even know. Nobody knows what Chevy's doing. I don't think they'll even make a decision this year. This is my guess. Like once again, I don't know. Nobody knows, but it feels like that's something where they're going to wait until as long as they feel like it's feasible to decide what to do with that extra charter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think like really the bigger point to me is like, okay, you look at the major professional sports leagues, and there are not a ton of like there's just not a ton of expansion outside of the WNBA. So like kind of the only way if you want in is to buy a team. And we saw it like Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry bought the Timberwolves off Glenn Taylor, but there it just does not happen very often. Mark Cuban, obviously an IU guy, in the news a lot with IU's success of late, but he sold off the Mavericks. And so like it doesn't happen often, but now they're going to be viewed, I think, as even higher value assets because of the exclusivity to get into the series. And you even mentioned it in your story. Like Formula One was 20 cars on the grid until Fisher Space Cadillac F1 finally got added this year with its 2 seats. So now it's at 22. But like nobody, I don't know, like these teams just don't change hands very often. And so it may add value because of exclusivity, like, I'm definitely buying that, but, like, does it change anything? I'm not sure. I am a little curious, like, does it from a competitiveness standpoint, is it gonna change how you have drivers? Like, is Jacob Abel last year was non-competitive in almost every race. Like, are we gonna see that? Are drivers gonna be pulled quicker because of
Hmm.
the like, the competitive nature of this? I have no idea, but, like, to me, I followed Formula One less in recent years, but like that was always the big allure to F1 to me when I was following it before I really eh, dove into racing with IndyCar here at the Star. But like to me, that was always the biggest thing is like, okay, this driver's underperforming. Like he's going to be pulled because of the competitive nature of the sport. So I wonder if like that kind of factors into IndyCar a little bit more than it has.
Yeah, I think that's a case by case thing and a driver contract situation, and maybe the nature of a lot of these drivers who aren't as secure, maybe the nature of their contracts changes for a performance clause. An example right now is Nolan Siegel, who everybody knows if he's not top 10 next year, he will not be in that Aaron McLaren seat, and he's nowhere near that right now. But like, I don't believe there's a performance clause in his contract, meaning that it would be nearly impossible for them to really break that contract in the middle of this season, right? They're just going to have to wait it out until these 18 races are done. And so maybe there are more performance clauses in contracts because of the exclusivity. And a couple of things I want to add is I don't know if we made it clear or not, but you can buy one charter from a team, right? Every team right now has at least two or three charters. You could theoretically call Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan, and say, "Hey, can we have one of your charters?" and do that deal. So that can happen. You don't have to buy the whole team necessarily to get on the grid. You can purchase just one charter. So that's one thing I wanted to add to that, and just to make that clear, and that's a possibility. And I just and you mentioned F1 and how they've been exclusive. It's been different for NASCAR in a sense where they have four open spots for every race. So they have their 36 cars that are in every race, including the 500, which of course uh, the Daytona 500 that is, which of course we don't even have an Indy car where theoretically, if we had more than 33 cars, it doesn't matter if you're chartered or not. You can be bumped from the Indy 500. That doesn't happen there though. And they have the four open cars. Like Catherine Legg last year was in one of those open seats where she raced in. Off the top of my head, I think the number was 8 races in NASCAR last year in the Cup Series. Um, and she was in one of those open seats. So IndyCar is going closer to the F1 route than the NASCAR route and saying there are just no open seats. We're at 27 for every race except for Indy, and that'll be 33. And I know we've talked about bumping a lot too. I'm curious to see next year, just with so many teams being shut out already, with it being the last year of the chassis and the engine, if Honda and Chevy are willing to lease out those engines more next year, and if we do get, up to, I don't know, 35 or 36 cars, or maybe a little bit more even, I don't know. But I think there's a real chance we could get a few cars bumped next year, just because everybody's, getting rid of these chassis anyway. Like, there's no reason to just, obviously it's still expensive to enter the race, even if you have a chassis, but there's no reason to just like hold on to them just for no reason, right? So I think we could see, HMD come back able to 1 or 2 entries rather than just the one they have this year that they kind of did late. Maybe we go back to the early 2020s when Ganassi had their extra entries. We could see that. I'm not sure, but I think that could be a possibility. I know a lot of people, when this move was announced, were curious and kind of concerned about if we'll ever get above, not ever, but if we could reasonably get above 33 again. I can't speak for what will happen in 2028. I think in 2027 we will be.
Carson Hocevar. He's been very vocal about wanting to do it. Very vocal.
I don't think he will be in an IndyCar in 2027. I mean, and if you want to jump ship here or skip through the rundown, we can talk about it. I just don't think next year. I think 2028 would probably be the earliest that they let him do that.
I don't know. Like, the way he was explaining, like, even driving Brickyard was like, okay, this guy clearly wants to race here. How often does, I mean, that probably happens a lot more often than usual, but like he seems like he would do it next, like he wants to practice next week. It's what it sounded like.
He can feel however he wants about it, and it's great that he has that enthusiasm about it. What matters is right now what Dan Towers thinks about it, and I don't believe that Dan Towers is like just jumping at the idea to put Carson Hocevar in an IndyCar next year. I could be wrong. Maybe they've had conversations in the last couple of months now that Hocevar has kind of gotten better and gotten more comfortable in NASCAR, but I just don't think that next year is the year that they're going to feel like he's ready to do it.
I mean, maybe he's trying to make his pitch publicly because of,
he might be, because we don't know. We're fully into this now. We're talking about Carson Hocevar.
I know. I just dove in. I was like, we got to.
We don't know what's happening with Andretti and that 4th entry, if it in the future, right? Obviously, it was supposed to be Colton Herta this year. A lot of F2 season left to go. If Colton Herta gets his F1 license and races in F1 next year, I don't know the F1 schedule next year, but I'm pretty sure they race on the same weekend just about every year. So I think Colton Herta, if he got that license, I don't know if he will kind of be out for the foreseeable future for coming back to Andretti Global. And so the question is, would they want to do a 4th car, or is it just kind of, if we don't know the guy well, we're not doing it? And I guess, to be fair, they know Carson Hocevar well, right, under that TWG blanket umbrella, whatever you want to call it. But I just, the way he was asked about it in St. Pete, right? I put that in my Hocevar story, and Dan Towers was like, not at that speed, not right now. So I just feel like, and once again, if he has a great next 25 races, however many races are left in the NASCAR season, and he finishes like 4th in their championship, then maybe they're more willing to do that. But I just don't feel like they feel like he is quite ready to make that jump and that commitment to going for the double, which, as we saw the last 2 years, is such a big commitment and so difficult to do, even for a 2-time champion like Kyle Larson.
Yeah, I was going to say, recency bias gives a little more credibility to Dan Towers in this situation, especially if you were going to be doing it on such short notice. I think they would probably want to run some sims in the off season and maybe have a little bit better preparation. It did make me think, though, of Connor Zilisch last year talking about it too, and just like his excitement of like, yeah, I'd want to do it one day, but like, Connor didn't even have his NASCAR seat yet in the big series. So like, it was like he's like, yeah, I have interest in doing this, but like kind of got bigger things in mind right now and want to get a little bit more experience under my belt, which is fair. I respect that. And I love the ambition of Hocevar. Like, I think that would be, just the novelty of it is fascinating, regardless of what's happened with Kyle Larson the past couple attempts. But yeah, okay. Well, we've checked that that box. I was so excited to talk about it because Josafar was so excited to talk about it.
It would be so great for IndyCar, right? Like he's becoming one of the biggest stars in American racing. He was just at the Met Gala this week. Like he is in line if he can continue to be successful and eventually win a NASCAR championship to really become kind of the guy, right? You talk about the stars right now in America. It is, I think he's joined that kind of top group of like him and Kyle Larson and Pato and Bubba Wallace and you can maybe throw Reddick in there now just because of how great he's been in NASCAR this season, right? I don't know how big of a celebrity he is, but I feel like it's been impossible to avoid hearing about how great of a season Tyler Reddick has had. So, Hocevar is putting himself in that pot of like, the most famous American drivers or drivers in America right now. And so to have him come here to Indy would be exceptional. And I'm sure that Andretti would welcome that just from a notoriety, from a sponsorship, from a money standpoint. But I don't think anybody's coming over to do the double unless they feel like they would come over and have a chance to win it, right? You don't do the double for fun. It's too much work to do it for fun, right? You have to do it with the chance of winning and with winning in mind. And so I don't know. I can see it happening. I just next year probably not.
Yeah. In Saturn news, we learned Friday, or I guess we learned Saturday that Alex Zanardi died. His family announced that he died peacefully, surrounded by the affection of those closest to him. He was 59, and man, what a career he had! Paralympic gold medalist. He was a two-time kart open wheel racing champion, and then won 4 Paralympic gold medals in hand cycling and set an Ironman world record. In doing so, after losing his legs in a crash in Germany in 2001, it was. I was on social media quite a bit Saturday, with what I had going on personally. I had a lot of downtime, but it struck me how important he was to a lot of people in the racing community. I mean, you just saw tributes pouring out all over, and it was very touching. And I mean, like I just enjoyed reading them because I felt like I was learning about a legend and an icon in the racing world.
Yeah, absolutely. It was very sad to wake up, like you said, Saturday morning and hear of that news. I guess what I would say about it is just Alex Zanardi is really one of the best and truest stories of resilience that we've seen in racing in IndyCar. Just of having his legs amputated in that Germany race in 2001, and then coming back as a hand cyclist and being a gold medalist as a Paralympic, and then have another bad incident to put him in a coma in 2020. Like I said, just a true story of resilience and somebody who I never met him, but just really seemed to have a real enjoyment of life and a real appreciation for everything, despite the 2 bad accidents and the injuries that he sustained from those. And you look at him as he was a great race car driver, right? A 2-time kart champion, and somebody who unfortunately never got to do the 500. I really hope there's some, whether it's that qualifying or the actual race, there's some sort of memorial for him. I don't think it would be this weekend. I could be wrong. But I hope that, IMS puts together something in Alex's honor, because it was very emotional to hear that he passed. And he's somebody who had so many great relationships with so many people around the paddock. Obviously, it starts with Chip Ganassi, who he raced for, but even extends to Tony Kanaan and quite a few others who really knew and had a great appreciation for Alex. And I know a lot of people saw it, but for those who didn't, Chip Ganassi, he didn't break the news, but Friday night in Laguna Seca, because everybody was there for IMSA, he just took a picture of the corkscrew and just put it on Twitter. And it was like before, right? Like I said, we learned kind of Saturday morning that he had passed. It was before anybody had really known that Alex died. And then the next morning it was like, oh wow, that was kind of a really sweet gesture without revealing the news before his family got the chance to do so, right? That's something you never want to do, but for him to just post a picture of the corkscrew. And then shout out to Laguna Seca. They got a banner up at that corkscrew by, I think, Saturday evening or Sunday morning, maybe. So that was there during the race. I know a lot of people have suggested they rename the corkscrew. I feel like that's kind of an easy decision to make. I don't know what goes into that, but I would love that was renamed the Zanardi Corkscrew by the time we come back there on Labor Day weekend in the IndyCar season. But yeah, very sad to hear, but it was also great to, like you say, see everybody just really celebrate and appreciate the life that he lived.
Yeah, absolutely. So last time we talked, as I said at the top, a lot has happened, but we talked mostly about Long Beach, but I was curious to see what the TV ratings were going to be. Like the previous year, 552,000 viewers, and this year, 1.269 million. So 130% increase in viewership year over year. Now, I think this is a credit to Fox, and where the partnership really comes in handy is I think Fox is being more strategic in finding ways to maximize viewership and eyeballs because it was paired up with NASCAR. So I do think you could say it's misleading to a degree, but I also think they're doing their best to maximize those viewership opportunities, which can also bring in more fans or more awareness to the series that other people may just otherwise ignore.
Yeah, like you said, I think it's good momentum going into May. And this is the last race that'll be NASCAR and IndyCar back to back, whether it be NASCAR first or IndyCar first. I think every race this year has been that way, but it won't be like that anymore because this weekend is the last weekend for NASCAR on Fox of the season, and NASCAR's Glenn Watkins race is on Sunday, whereas of course the GP is on Saturday. So those two won't be pinned back to back to maybe help each other out anymore for the rest of the season. NASCAR will go to I think it's Prime first, then TNT, then USA/NBC. It's a very they have 4 different TV partners. There's a lot going on there. I don't know, a lot of NASCAR fans hate that. But yeah, they'll be moving on from Fox for the rest of the season. So I'm curious to see if IndyCar can continue to hold its weight on its own. We'll see what the GP does numbers wise. This is one of those races that ratings wise has been kind of a roller coaster throughout the years. Like it really just depends. And then of course we'll get the 500, which will be a good number, and then we'll see how that continues into Detroit and into Gateway in those coming weeks. But very good starts this season. Every race with over 1 million viewers except for Barber. And I mean, Fox is doing what they can to promote it, right? We see all these commercials and everything for it. They released a full schedule as far as broadcasting goes for the month of May the other day. The show, first things first, they're actually going to be here in Indy in person, I think, on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I should have wrote this down. The week of the 500, at some point, they will be here and doing their show from IMS. And I know they've had Pato on and maybe one other driver on so far this year on that show. Pato's been on that show and the new the morning Barstool show they have too on Fox. So obviously trying to market the guy I just mentioned, the most popular driver in IndyCar. So we'll see how that all kind of accumulates together and what it means for the rest of the season. But another very good number that they got in Long Beach.
And I will say, NASCAR fans, we feel your pain for those of us who live and cover Big Ten universities and their college sports teams. It's like, it's tough, man. And it's just the way of sports in general. Like you think of the NBA playoffs. I'm here in Detroit right now visiting home, and it's like, okay, what channel is the Pistons game on? Is it on Peacock or is it on NBC or NBC? Like, is it on Prime? Like, it's just kind of interesting how all these leagues are trying to maximize their revenue. And I do think it's great for IndyCar. Like Fox, it's year 2 of the Fox partnership, but I do think that consistency will help them, especially a league that's trying to emerge and grow its own audience. And the NASCAR doubleheaders may be over, but they will have the World Cup, and that will be leading into the Nashville race, the World Cup final. So
that's right. That's July 19th, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so. So that will be another interesting point in the year. Maybe, I mean, I'm curious to see how Detroit does, obviously, just coming off of the 500 and what kind of momentum there is there. But I think the World Cup and what comes after that will be fascinating.
I wonder, I don't know how this works. I wonder if the IndyCar race is going to be on Fox worldwide following the World Cup, or is that only going to be in America? You know what I mean?
Sounds like a great story idea. I have no idea. I mean, that's a great point. I don't does Fox broadcast globally?
I I, I don't know. I'll ask.
Like,
I've
if it's
got
in
people I can ask.
Canada
I really have no clue how it works.
if it's in Canada, like, I don't know. Is Fox in Canada?
I do not know.
I can ask someone and find out.
Okay.
I can at least find that out, but, that is fascinating. I mean, either way, I still think it's big for, the country because I
Yeah.
would think the country's gonna be tuned in, and you think about just, like, the diversity of soccer, like, it's everywhere, It's in every country plays it. Even in America, every kid grows up playing soccer, right? Or something like that. Most kids. It's a little different probably than when I was growing up when we did all play soccer, but um, it is still such a huge sport internationally, and with the melting pot that this country is, there's going to be great opportunity, regardless of whether that race is broadcast internationally or just across this country. So, uh, before that, we have a whole month of May. It's May 6th as we record this, but we still have a whole month in front of us. The GP, obviously, we're gearing up for. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but we did have the 500 open test last week. And so, Catherine Legg was confirmed as the 33rd driver for the 500, and she got her testing in, as did all of the one-off drivers. I think they all completed it, right?
Yeah. Everybody's
Yeah.
good to go.
Yeah, so everybody's good to go, unless there's a last-minute entry, we'll see. I don't think any of us are confident that that's gonna happen, but, the 500 open test, I feel like was more eventful this year because we had one of the most bizarre, like, things in sports somehow has to deal with birds, and Roman Grosjean hitting a bird, or the
Yeah.
bird hitting him.
No, that was crazy to see. Not even to see. Well, I didn't see it right away. I don't think most people did. What really happened is he walked up to the bullpen. So the way they did it is that all the non rookies and all the full time drivers got to go out first for a few laps for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then we did our kind of weekly media bullpen right before all of the veterans had to do their refresher program and the rookies had to do their rookie program. Um, and so as those veterans and rookies are going out, we do the bullpen, and he walks in and he's got the remains of the bird blood kind of just on part of his fire suit. And he's like, "Yeah, I hit a bird up there." And once again, I don't think any of us had realized that. Like, it didn't stop his car. None of us really realized it in the moment. But he's like, "Yeah, I hit a bird. It was crazy." We were like, "Whoa!" And then after that, we finally got to see a replay of his onboard, and it was like, "Wow, that's a crazy thing. Something you don't see very often." And then on day 2, there was a fox that ran onto the course and caused the caution, and nobody hit the fox, which would have probably been a lot worse than the bird for as far as affecting how bad the car was hit. But the fox kind of got out the way and snuck under the wall and vanished. Yeah, a lot of wildlife just randomly out there on the track at IMS. I think they've probably been hanging out here for however long, and they're starting to realize, okay, maybe let's figure out where not to go over the next few weeks. But very funny and good that nothing happened to Roma or his car. I know Peter was upset that he showed no remorse for the bird, apparently, but I do like birds, but it is a bird, and I don't know, the bird should have been more careful.
We needed Jack Harvey to hop out of the cockpit and interview the fox. We could have found out what the fox says.
I know, yeah, somebody should have chased down that fox. But no, it was very funny just to see those two incidents. But yeah, that was kind of probably the most eventful part of the 2 days, I would say.
Well, I guess Jack's car did catch fire, which I did not mean to put 2 and 2 together there as like that kind of joke. I was just thinking, Jack with his pit reporting prowess could have hopped out and snuck a couple questions in for the wildlife, and but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like Grosjean hitting the bird just, I don't know, like the first image that popped into my head was Randy Johnson's pitch
Mhm.
hitting a bird, and the bird just exploding basically.
That's one of my favorite videos. Like I can watch that on a loop for like 15 minutes straight.
Yeah,
And once
yeah.
again, I'm not for the destruction of birds, but
No,
like
me
it's
either.
just like it's like a car crash. It's like that is fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it's just like a phenomenon that never happens, so
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, it's just fascinating. Certainly not advocating for people to try to do this. I'm gonna try not to go on a tangent because I totally could with animals that I've hit on accident, but, yeah. Anyway, the open test was eventful. I'll run through the day 1. I don't know how you wanna split this up, but I'll run through the day 1 times, and then do you wanna talk about the day 1?
Sure.
Okay. So, I've got the top 5, I believe, and we had Connor Daly coming in quickest at 225.394 miles per hour. Helio Castroneves at 225.2. Takuma Sato, 224.8. Scott Dixon, the first full-time driver, on the day or yeah, quickest full-time driver on the day, 224.564. And then Alexander Rossi was at 224.367. So that was your top 5 from day 1.
Yeah. What stands out to me there, you said it a bit. Those top three guys, all 500 only drivers, all guys that I think were more concerned. I know with Connor Daly, he told us that. I'm not quite sure how Elio and Sato saw it, but they were really concerned with getting up to, not concerned, but really focused on getting up to speed just because they haven't been on track all year in the way that
Mhm.
everybody else has been. And then when you add in Scott Dixon to that top four, you say, okay, these are just four veterans, right? I thought that was interesting. Four OGs, kind of three of them. Everybody but Daly has won at least one 500. Of course, Elio's won 4, Sato's won 2. So yeah, just it was like 2012 all over again or whatever. Like it's just like look at those guys go. I almost was like, where's Tony Kanaan? Why isn't he out there? So yeah, it was good to see that. And like I said, I really felt like that was really an emphasis for those first three guys to get up there and to have a strong run.
I'm not going to ask where you were in 2012 because I don't want to bring up where I was in 2012, but that was, 14 years ago, which is crazy. Day 2, top of the charts, rookie Kyle Collette, 226.381. An impressive day by him, followed by Newgarden at 226.223, Alex Palou 225.272, Connor Daly again 225.215, Pato Award 225.109 if I can read my own handwriting. And then 3 others that I had written down as notables, to me, Wasato was second last at 223.75. Catherine Legg was last at 219.841. And Jacob Abel was ninth at 233.859. Or excuse me, 223.859. See, I can't read my own handwriting. I just like, I don't know. You never know too, like what they're testing and what they're shooting for, and they
Right.
may be, like we're gonna see faster times in throughout this month. But I just thought like the way the leaderboard changed from day 1 to day 2 was fascinating.
Yeah, and I think some cars may have put more into day 2 or whatnot. And like you said, a lot of like Alex Palou was not in his actual 500 car last week. Neither was Pato Award. You mentioned Rossi the first day. I'm not sure. I don't think he was in his. I tried to ask around and try to get a good sense of who was and who wasn't, but I didn't get a clear answer on everybody. But I know for a fact the Arrow McLaren and Chip Ganassi cars were not in their oval cars. They were not in their 500 cars. So you can only take so much about of those numbers and what they did. I guess it's a good sign for Pato and Alex. Not that we really needed a sign from those two guys, right? Based off their history at this track, we know they're both good here. But I guess it was a good sign to see that even in a car that they're not even going to use for the race, that they were strong. But I'll go back to Kyle. Like that was very impressive. In the primer article that me and Scott Horner put together before the test, one of my big questions was which rookie is going to look the best? Just because we really don't know much about these three, and I guess technically Jacob Abel is a rookie, so we put him in there. We don't know much about what they can do here, and especially just in ovals in general. Like between Mick Schumacher and Kyle and Dennis Hauger, none of them are known for what they do on ovals. Obviously, Mick had literally never raced an oval before Phoenix. Dennis, he won 5 races last year in Indy Next. None of them were on ovals. Same with Kyle. I think he won 4 or 3. None of his wins were on ovals. So it was like, who's going to look great? And Kyle really did. And I think there's an institutional knowledge right now with that AJ Foyt racing team. Santino is tremendous at IMS. I don't know what his numbers were last week. I don't really care. Once again, he's in that. I guess I can't put him in the Pelot category now that Pelot was won, but he's kind of in that Pato-esque category where it's like, you haven't won the race yet, but like he's been top 10 every year. 7 times for Santino Ferrucci in the top 10. That's impressive. So like I have to believe that Kyle got a lot of tips and whatnot from Santino in that nature. And then even just passed down. I know AJ Foyt himself is not necessarily involved in the day-to-day with that team. He wasn't there in Indy last week. I think he will be coming to Indy if he's not already back here now. But it's still, you have a guy who's won 4 Indy 500s as your main boss, technically still. I know Larry Foyt runs things, but as the top guy, and you can just pass that knowledge on down. So it was very impressive to see that from Kyle. And now I'm kind of looking at it like, is he the favorite as far as rookies go to have the best finish in this year's race?
Yeah. I mean, the times are like a measuring stick, but to see Connor Daly up there twice, I think it was awesome in a lot of ways, because it's like, okay, there's something for him to prove. He's not in a full-time seat. Like, I shouldn't say, but I figure just from like his personality seems like the type that he's going to try to do everything he can to prove himself. Like, he's raced very well on ovals. Like, this is really his moment to shine. And so, like, to me, it was like, okay, this is awesome to see Connor really push like the top pace setters here at the 2-day test. I mean, he was first, and then he was fourth. So like,
yeah,
he's right up there. I also am like, okay, what is the limit? Like, how much faster can he get? How much higher can he go? Like, hopefully I don't think this is the limit in terms of speed, but like, is he someone who can be a contender in the 500? Like, we know he can race. We know he can perform well on ovals, but like it's one of those weird, like, not catch-22, but like it's just one of those weird, like, almost bittersweet things where it's like, okay, this is really cool to see. Like, here's this guy who's not a full-time field, not a full-time driver in the full-time field this year, but he is like proving himself early on at least. So I mean, that was just one thing that stuck out to me. You obviously were there and watched it all and talked to everybody while I was, I don't know, probably dealing with the fever or something. But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to May, and I think a lot of what we kind of planned for the show is like geared toward the 500. I think partly because that's what a lot of the news was between Long Beach and in the Grand Prix, which again, we will still get to in a second, I promise. But you came up with the great idea of, let's rank the one-off drivers and how we think they'll finish, or who has the best chances to win, or how do you want to do this? It's your idea, so I'll let you set the terms.
For me, it's one and the same. I guess I will. I'm gonna say, based off the rankings I have, it's closer to the how we'll think they'll finish versus than the how big of a chance they have to win.
That's fair. Are we snake drafting, or are we just?
Do you want to draft or rank? I did think about this. It's up to you. Decide right now.
I mean, I did not rank them, so I don't have like I would have to think this through.
Let's draft.
Okay. I'll let you have the first pick since it was your idea and you're the insider. And
okay. And then you'll get 2 and 3?
And sure. And then it gives me time to actually think this through, maybe.
Okay. My first pick in the 31 car for Aaron McLaren, I'm going to Ryan Hunter-Reay. Won this race in 2014. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, we've got 3 of these people we'll mention have won this race before. And I just think that car of the 8 one-off drivers is probably the best car. So you put that together. Ryan Hunter-Reay legitimately had a chance to win last year before the fuel issue happened with Dreyer and Reinbold, and now he's with the team where there's more sense of security. You talk about Daly a lot, and one thing I wanted to bring up is that there's really no time for Connor Daly and Jack Harvey to like experiment or, to just kind of take things easy right now, because they're obviously one-off entries, but they're on a team that doesn't do IndyCar races except for this one, right? Versus everybody else here. I guess Catherine Legg is a half and half with that HMD Foyt kind of split deal there. But everybody else here is in a situation where, at the very least, they're on a team that is operating every single week or every single race week. And Daly and Harvey aren't. And I think Ryan Hunter-Reay being on this team and in this car makes him my number one pick.
Okay. I'm a little surprised. I'm not going to lie. But
really?
It's a good pick. So I'm going to take Takuma Sato. I think, obviously, the experience, but he just, like, races to win. And so I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. And then I'm going to go – so I didn't think of getting 2 and 3 at the same time, but I am going to – even though you tried to sway me from taking Connor Daly because he doesn't they just don't have, like, this full-time setup, I'm still going to go with him because I'm going to take – like, I just think there's extra motivation there. Hometown kid, hometown guy. Like, I don't know. I think Connor Daly is going to have something to put on a show and entertain at the 500. And even though you tried hard to dissuade me, I'm gonna go with Takuma Sato, and I'm gonna go with Connor Daly and send it back your way.
All right. Well, I wasn't trying to change your pick. Just FYI, Daly was my 2 and Sato was my 3 on my list here. So I agree. I agree with how you approach that.
Okay.
I think that leaves me with the easy choice. I don't think you disagree. It just has to be Elio Castroneves at 4, right? Like I don't think, with all due respect to the next 4 that we're going to draft here, like I don't think any of them really have a solid argument to be drafted ahead of the 4-time champ. This is where 2 things come in play here. The age. I think he turns 50. I think this weekend. I think maybe Sunday. The age comes into play. You just wonder about that sometimes. And then the car comes into play. I do think those 3 guys we drafted ahead of Elio are just going to be in better cars than he is. It doesn't mean he can't win the race. He won a race for this Meyershank team. The only race this Meyershank team has won in IndyCar was the 521 with Elio. So he's done it before, but I do think he's at a slight disadvantage because of those couple of reasons. And then I get this next pick too as well, right?
Yeah. And for the record, I was leaning Helio as you were talking about why I shouldn't pick Connor Daly. And then I was like, no, I'm taking Connor.
Yeah, I think that's the clear top 4. I think, honestly, you probably could put it in any order, but I do think that is a solidified top 4. With this 5th pick, this is probably the hardest spot for me to decipher. I'm going to go Ed Carpenter. This guy who's been there a long time, a lot. I feel a little bit more comfortable with him than the last 3. And once again, it's just a setup where they run a team all season long. He obviously owns the team. And so he's around. He knows everybody on his team. There's no like he's just showing up and walking into this. And I've talked to Ryan Hunter-Reay about this because Ryan Hunter-Reay has been around with Aaron McLaren since November. It's not a situation where you're just showing up and just hopping in the car and like wishing for the best. Like he's involved enough to where I have him with this 5th pick.
Okay. Taking the Butler Bulldog. I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a great feel for these last 3. So it's really, I think, I don't know. I'm going to go. I'm going to take. Oh, gosh, I don't know. I don't really have a reason for this. So I'm just going to take Catherine and Jacob Abel, and I'll let you have Jack Harvey. I just like, I don't know. Vibes, man. I don't know. Like Catherine, I think she's been in a race car. Like it's not like she's just been sitting around doing nothing. But like, again, I'm kind of just like rooting for like the entertainment aspect of both of their storylines. Not that Jack doesn't have a great story, but we just had the first female trainer win the Kentucky Derby, and now we're gonna have the only female in the Indy 500 field. So I'll take those vibes and that storyline. And then Jacob Abel, who didn't race in the 500. I think I shared this last week or on our last show. Like I remember walking the grid before the 500 last year and then just randomly seeing Jacob Abel in the pits. And I was like, okay, it's cool that he's here. It sucks that he isn't realizing his own dream. But yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad I got Harvey. I will say Harvey was going to be my next pick after Ed. I had leg last, and it's not because of her really, but I got a chance to talk to some leadership from both HMD and Able last week, and one thing I got the sense of was as excited as HMD and Foyt are for this little partnership, and of course Legs, she's been begging to get back after not being in the race last year. We saw what happened on day one of the open test where she didn't even get out onto the track because her engine stalled. And then you mentioned it, she was at the bottom right on day two when she finally did get onto the track. I think the difference between what's going on at Able Motorsports is they had the chassis built and everything, and they were just kind of waiting on the word for Chevy, like, hey, when you say go, we're ready. Whereas Foyt and HMD were like, do you need us or no? Like, don't get me wrong, HMD specifically is very happy to be there, right? Like, they're not a full-time IndyCar team, so duh, they're happy to be there. But they're more in the space of like, we had to put this together last minute, right? And talking to people at Long Beach and trying to figure out if she would be in the race or not. And they were like, they were literally going through contract negotiations at Long Beach, right? She had not signed that contract until after Long Beach. And they had not really figured out everything with that car. Because the last time we spoke, remember, Aaron, we didn't know HMD was going to be a part of this, right? Like we talked about how Foyt is probably entering a car and how it'll probably be leg. We did not, nobody knew about the HMD part of it until that came out. And I think that kind of shows that they're putting this together so late that I'm just not sure how well it'll look, right? And so if you want to argue that leg is probably a better driver at IMS than Jack Harvey and Jacob Abel, I'm there. I got you. But if you want to argue that she's in a better car than the two of those guys, I just don't think so.
Yeah. You're putting the way you're explaining it is now going. I am essentially going against what I've said all along. It's more about the car than the driver. This is like the Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers spend all this money and like the Pirates aren't, it's like that same conversation, I feel like. But no, I feel good about it because you know what? All that matters is one day in May. That's all that matters.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can do whatever leading up to it. Yeah. I mean, I did have a conversation with someone at the office last week about just like the forecast for May, and it doesn't look super great, but who knows? You never know.
Can you do me a favor? I'm going to ask this of you. I don't know the next time I'll see you in person. If it's not the week of the 500, do not tell me what it says. I have not looked on what any projections look like for May 24th. So I want you to do me the favor. Do not tell me what the forecast looks like until we get past qualifying.
It's funny. I usually like people will ask me like what the weather is like, and I generally cannot tell them. But I care about this.
I care too, but I care too much. And I know once I know, I'm going to look at it every day.
Oh. Well, I haven't even looked at it myself. It was just like, I was just like, oh, I wonder what the weather is going to be like next month. And then someone was like on top of it. And I was like, oh, okay.
I mean, we've experienced this first week where it's cold and rainy already. So not a great start.
Yeah. Well, until the cars are on track, it doesn't matter. It can be whatever until the cars are on track. And then,
and that's another aspect of last week is that everybody was like, I don't know what to take from this because we don't feel like the weather's going to be the same on race day as it is today.
Yeah. Well, I just remember last year how cold it was. And the track temperatures were an issue for all the wrecks. It was funny. There was no media shuttle. Well, first of all, the media parking last year got filled up. And so I had to go park in like the north lot somewhere. And so I'm like walking through this wet grass and everything. But there was no media shuttle out because I was there so late. Because, that's what we do. And I was walking. I was still like inside IMS. I had just gotten to like to the point where I could walk along the road where like the tram runs inside. And someone like whipped around in their golf cart and was like, "You're dressed way too nice to be walking out there." They offered me a ride. I was like, you know what? Yeah, sure. I'd be great. It was Al Unser Jr.'s wife. And she was giving me this whole rundown of how this was like the wildest 500 since I think she said 92. And she was explaining like how the weather was very similar and the track temperature causes all these issues. And so like it was kind of cool to get like all this history, like this history lesson while I was just trying to get to my car and get home. So it was super cool, super appreciative to Mrs. Unser, Al Unser Jr.'s wife, for the ride, especially, but also the crash course in history. But it did make me
Yeah.
think, like, okay, how's the GP going to be on Saturday? And especially, like, if it's cooler temperatures again this year, like we saw, I mean, even the pit road incidents that we had last year was insane. And so, um, we'll see. I don't have my counter because I'm in the Michigan office, which speaking of, before we get to the GP, and we're getting to that next, I swear. I went downtown Detroit for the Red Sox Tigers game Monday, and then the Detroit Pistons game against the Cavs last night. And it was cool to see the Detroit GP billboards already up in advertising. And so I'm I think part of my excitement in building the rundown is just like, oh my gosh, it's May, like 500 is going to be great. Then they're coming to Detroit. Like that's where my mind's been, because like that's quite literally where I've been, is Detroit. And so anyway, on to the GP, which is this weekend. The 2.439 mile road course at IMS. Alex Palou, the man, the myth, the legend, mainly legend, not much myth. We know who he is. We know who his team is. He could become the fourth driver since 1946 to win 4 straight GPs at IMS, joining Al Rogers, AJ Foyt, Bobby Rahal, and Al Unser Jr. How's that for a transition?
Incredible. Great stuff. Great stuff. Funny enough, Al Unser Jr. won those 4 straight at Long Beach, and then the next year was that 92, that 500 you talked about, the closest 500 finish ever.
Yeah. It's a good omen for this year, I think. History does repeat itself, but usually that's if you forget it. And so I don't know. Alex Palou, yeah, he's been very good. He's not the only multi-time winner. Will Powers won 5 of these. Scott Dixon's won twice. Joseph Newgarden and Alexander Rossi, Rinus VeeKay. And you ready for this? Dennis Hauger last year won on the road course. Indy Next in the second race. So I'm curious to see. We talked about the rookies and the ovals, but I'm curious to see how he fares this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, this should kind of be his forte. Like I talked about it, not an oval guy, but it's very, very, very good on the streets and the roads last year. So I want to see how he does. I want to see how Mick Schumacher does as a rookie, because this has been a place that team, that Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan team, has been very, very good at. Specifically Graham Rahal, but even last year, Louis Foster was a rookie, and he did a really good job and started near the front last year. So I want to see how those 3 guys do. Louis Foster, I feel like, is a name we almost never bring up here, and I haven't wrote much about him. Like, he's somebody who was rookie of the year last year and has kind of just been living in the shadows this year. So maybe this is his breakout weekend of 2026.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned RLL, and that was what I was thinking too. I was like, okay, like Louis Foster had such a great year last year, and yeah, just haven't talked about him at all. Also, this is a big weekend, I think, for the points standings. Like Alex Palou, he's won 3 races. He's got a 17-point lead on Kyle Kirkwood, and then you've got David Malukas, who's 63 back, Pato's 69. Lundgaard 74, Newgarden's 75 back, Scott McLaughlin 78, Scott Dixon 85, Felix Rosenquist 96, and Graham Rahal 99. And I'll throw Rossi and geez, it's so tight. Like Rahal's 10th with 99 back. Then you got Rossi 100 back. Marcus Ericsson and Marcus Armstrong are both 101 back. So like the points chase, it's Palou, the top is starting to separate themselves a little bit, but like this is an opportunity, I feel like, for things to kind of separate themselves, and like not even the middle, but like, the top 10. Like there's plenty to separate themselves. Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating weekend.
Yeah, I think this is both of these 2 races, I guess there's 3 races in there because we get that Detroit GP on literally the last day, but these 2 before Detroit, obviously the 2 Indy races, will be so big for points, right? Like if Palou does win one again, and let's say he's on the podium for the other one, it'll probably feel like he's pulling away. But if Pato can get a win, if Kirkwood can get a win, I still think that Malukas win is coming at some point this year. I don't know when and where. Gateway is probably the best place for it to happen, but I think it's happening at some point. And he'll be in that vintage, quote unquote. I don't know. How far does it have to be vintage? Like, it's a 2018, the livery that he's using the old Willpower livery. I don't know if that's long ago enough to call it vintage, but he's in that livery this weekend because that was the 200th Team Penske win. So they're kind of throwing it back and celebrating that. So you've got that group of guys and Christian Lundgaard in there who have a chance to make a push here with a solid 2 races in May. But then, of course, we do have Alex Palou, who is the clear favorite in this race. He's at minus odds to win this weekend because, like you said, he's won it 3 times in a row.
The slick silver throwback.
Yeah.
Again, throwback. I don't.
By the way, David Malukas interview, plug here. Go check it out on the YouTube, on the podcast feed.
And Kiffin finally posted, right?
Yes.
My bad. I teased it last time, and Zion immediately after the show is like, that's not even posted yet. So if you went looking for it, I'm sorry. That's on me. He and I have been talking about it, and I just assumed it was up already. That's my fault. But
spoiler to the fans that we do not post all of the interviews right away. If you didn't know that, if you've already watched the David Malukas one, no, me and him were not at IMS yesterday. That happened last week. So, I guess if that's a surprise to anybody, we space these out a little bit.
Yeah. Hashtag content plan. Yeah. Anyway, I do think, Palou's dominated this track, like not just the wins, but he was on pole the last two years. And so there are more drivers with poles at this track. Power's got 5 of them. Palou, as I mentioned, has the 2. Felix Rosenquist has a pair. Graham Rahal, Christian Lundgaard, Pato Award, Rinus VeeKay. So like there are a lot of drivers who've had success with putting down fast laps on the road course. And so everyone except for Mick has raced on it, right?
That sounds right. Yeah,
I
think it's cool. I hadn't thought about that in that sense, but yeah, it should be everybody but Mick Schumacher.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, Hauger won. Like I think that's something that I'm interested in seeing because it feels like forever ago, but he had such a strong start at St. Pete, and now it's like, okay, let's see something from a rookie, please. Kyle had his moment a little bit at the open test. We just talked about that. Like, is this a chance for Hauger to be like, okay,
I'd love it. I'd love to see him get a top 10 or maybe even push for a top 5 finish, right? I don't know necessarily what the limit, how great that car can get, but I would love to see him push for it. I think that'd be a great story.
I mean, we've seen Roman push his teammate. Yeah. And so like I think the cars have some pace. Like I think that's interesting. I had a conversation with somebody recently, and it was like, yeah, Alex Palou is winning again, but it does not feel like last year. Although he does have 3 race wins, so like but like last year he had like 9. It's like, okay, is he going to set the record? Whereas now I feel like there's a little bit more, and I don't know that it's a driver's thing. I don't know that it's a team's thing. I just think the teams have become more competitive, and there's a little bit more parity and a little bit more balance. That's just what it feels like to me from watching.
So I've gone back and forth on this concept on how dominant he's been this year compared to last year. And that part of me is just like, if he doesn't make contact with Rinus VeeKay in Phoenix, there's a very good chance he wins that race. And then we're like, okay, no, he's won 4 of the 5, right? Yeah. Like that one 24th place finish has really hurt him points wise because we're still so early in the season. But even if he doesn't finish first, like we all saw the pace. We all watched the first 10 or 15 laps, however long he was in that race. He was going to be in the top 5, right? If he wasn't winning that race. So part of me is like, yeah, it's been closer, but it's still not the same. But it is a kudos, I would say, to the number 2 and 3 drivers right now in the points in Kirkwood and Malukas. If neither of them have really had a disastrous finish, so they've kind of stayed in that range. I mean, even Pato, he has the one Barber, he was 17th. But yeah, it hasn't been a runaway. But then again, you say that, and then I don't think he's going to win both races at IMS. But he did it last year. Like if he comes out and just wins these next 2 races, then we're like, no, this isn't close again. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I think like I just said, these 2 races are going to tell us a lot about the season outside of the obvious magnitude and the gravity of the 500.
Also, I just want to say, I feel like it's the ultimate compliment to Alex that this is the conversation we're having.
Yes.
Like,
you're not like, can he win the championship again? We're asking, has it been as dominant as last year, which was one of the like 3 most dominant seasons in the history of IndyCar?
yeah, seriously. And just like, I've been thinking about this, just in general, like in the concept of sport and how we hold these humans, because I don't want them to be like idols or athletes. Like they are just humans. They are just like you and I. Many of the drivers have their own podcasts or appear on podcast shows and episodes, whether this one or others. And so like I think that's what I love about IndyCar is like you do get to see the human side a lot more. But like we in sport in general just hold these athletes to such high standards where it's almost like they're robots and they're just here to serve us entertainment purposes. But we don't view it through entertainment. We view it through my guy wins, your guy loses. And it's just like, man, it's just a weird mental place. So like, I don't know. I just think like it's crazy to be talking about how dominant Alex is. And I don't know. To me, it's just a weird mental part of sport. But anyway, I'm not picking a favorite. I refuse. Although, didn't I pick Kirkwood when he was a favorite? So I don't know.
Did you pick him in Long Beach? I don't even remember.
I think I did.
Okay.
I was wrong. That's all I remember.
Yeah.
Rare of me to admit such a thing. But anyway, picks. You got one? You ready or no?
Yeah, I'm ready. I am going to pick the favorite. I'm picking Alex Palou. and part of the reason I'm picking Alex Palou is the stat you mentioned before about the drivers who have won 4 straight at the same track. Yeah. It's Al Unser Jr., Bobby Rahal, AJ Foyt, and Al Rogers. Legends. And I do think, not even think, he's already won 4 championships. We know that Alex Palou is in that legend status and trying to just keep climbing that legend status. And I feel like this is, in a way, like a check mark to doing so, right? You look at those guys and a lot of people would just straight up argue that AJ Foyt's the best ever or whatnot. And of course, Bobby Rahal and Al Unser Jr. are both also in that conversation. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I look at it and I say Alex Palou is in that class of drivers. Not that if he didn't win this weekend, it would mean anything as far as his legacy goes, but I just think it'll kind of prove more how great he's been. So I'm gonna pick him to win a 4th straight. I don't know if I poll pick whether or not it'll be him, but I am gonna pick him to win again this weekend.
I don't have a reason to go with anyone else, so I am just gonna go with someone who's very accomplished here, and he hasn't had a great season, but I'm gonna say Will Power is gonna get number 6. Because why not take that experience? You know, he's got 5 poles, he's got 5 firsts. Like, why not?
Yeah. At first I thought you were going Scott Dixon there with that lead in, and then I realized once you said, hasn't had a great season, which I guess could kind of be both of them for their standard, yeah. but definitely for Will Power being in 14th in the standings. But I think it'd be a great story. And that I think in a way that will get a lot of people excited for the 500 to see a guy who we all know has been great, to see him back in the victory lane and then to lead into the 500 and say, can he win that again? Right. He has struggled in Indy basically since he won it in 2018. He had a good race, I think, again in 2019, but since then, the last 6 500s for Will Power have not been good at all. So I would love that. I think it would be a lot of excitement and energy heading into qualifying weekend in the 500. So, and I don't think that's a crazy pick to have. Just, with the way this year's gone, I'm not so sure, but I like it.
No,
I like the boldness. But like I said, I like how bold that pick is.
I mean, like, I think the other thing is, like, he's had a good car. It has not been perfect. It has had its issues, but, like, he's had pace, and he's shown it many times. It just seems like every weekend there's something that goes awry, and, at some point they're going to figure it out. Like, it's not like he forgot how to race. It's not like Andretti just doesn't know what they're doing. Like, so why not? Why not Will?
I like it. Why not Will?
That can be like the headline or something of if he wins, why not Will?
I'll page Nat on that one, see what his thoughts are.
There you go. Anything else you want to get into? This has been our longest episode yet.
Yeah, I know. No, I don't think so. For those, we won't have a pod next week, right? But we're planning to do one Tuesday or Wednesday of the 500 week, right? I think that's our plan.
That's our plan, unless you want to do one to recap the GP.
We'll see. Maybe Monday. We'll see. Because then by Tuesday,
Maybe sometime next week.
Well, by Tuesday it's track time.
No, I know.
But we'll see. But yeah, no, I don't have much else to add other than all the things we've talked about. I'm so excited for May. It'll be some long days, long hours, but I'm very excited to get there and really get fully into it. Last week was just like a small little taste, but now it's like now it's really here.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because people talk to me about the 500 and they're like, how cool is it to like cover it from my side of things? And like, for me, what I tell people is like, sometimes college football, like covering IU can feel like a chore. Like football can feel like a chore, basketball can feel like a chore because like you kind of know what you have at all times, especially late into the season. Like that IU basketball team was tough. Even Purdue was tough at times because it's like, okay, they're going to kick it into gear in time for the tournament, and then they do, and then, whatever. But like the thing for me with being at IMS every day is like I look forward to it every day because it is just unlike anything I've been a part of. It kind of is like the young child showing up to their first game type of feel for me. So I'm really excited. It's a bunch of long days, sometimes slow days. You just never know with some of those practice sessions. But no, I'm super excited, as evident by me forgetting to include the GP on our rundown before we started the show. Seeing the billboards in Detroit advertising for the Detroit GP after the 500, like it's going to be an exciting month. And so everyone can stay tuned to IndyStar.com and see all of Zion's writings. He's not the only one. Our whole team is going to be involved in some way, shape, or form. Scott Horner is magical at what he does with a lot of different reaction files and results and live blogs. Our intern, Jessica Garcette, she's going to join us. Huge racing fan, so excited for her, for this opportunity for her and to see what she can do. Josh Aran has been out there last year for us. He was our intern, and now he's with us full time. And I know he's excited to be out there. And of course, Nathan Brown. We can't keep him away from this. He loves. I think he loves IndyCar. Just the coverage of the sport, and I think I'm very much the same way. Like this is my second year dealing with IndyCar, and like it is so much fun. So I feel like Zion's catching that drift a little bit too. The first couple months on the job.
Yeah, and last week I will say so many people asked me about Nathan since we were back in Indy, right? And they were like, "Is he coming back?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I don't know what day. I still don't know what day he's going to be there at the track first, but he will be back." Everybody, you'll hear and read from him soon, I guess. So,
May 24th. I know he'll be there then.
Right. Yes, and then he'll be there at some point during practice, I think, or practice or qualifying. But I don't know. I don't know if he shows. I legitimately, that's a Nat thing. That's beyond me. But I'm excited to have him back, whatever that day is.
It's a Nathan thing. He can do whatever, man. He gets to enjoy it. Not that he didn't before, but he gets to truly enjoy the experience. So, yeah, we're looking forward to it. Stay tuned to IndyStar.com. We'll have everything, all full coverage there, but also go to the YouTube page, IndyStar TV, IndyCar. I promise the Kiffin Simpson interview is there. David Malukas is there. Archived interviews, Ron Rzuski, Will Power, they're there. Zion, yeah, all of Zion's insights from the track, from races, from interviews, bullpens, it's all there. And beginning Tuesday? Monday, I think.
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Beginning Tuesday, we'll have our Pit Pass Live show as well. That Clark Wade helps produce with Zion, and we'll have full coverage from the track. And so please go get subscribed up on the YouTube page, subscribe to IndyStar.com for everything that we're putting out there. We've got some great features planned, obviously the daily coverage as expected, and we're looking forward to it. And if you have listened to all 75 minutes of this show, thank you. God bless you for getting through this with us. And our excitement for May obviously is high. And yeah, please like and subscribe the podcast, share it with your friends. Any feedback, feel free to hit us up. And until next time, welcome to May.